Should the Cowboys make a run at Sean Payton to replace Mike McCarthy?
Well, you guys know that last week I pushed back on Nick wanting to fire Mike McCarthy. But if I could get Sean Payton,
you're coming around.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm doing. Yeah. For Sean Payton, I wouldn't look. Sean Payton is proven. You know what you're getting with him. You're going to get a great coach. You're going to get a guy that is going to be great with Dak Prescott. He's just what the doctor ordered. And a guy that Jerry loves. So that's a no-brainer. Now, you go out and hire an offensive or defensive coordinator that you don't know about as a head coach, then you're kind of rolling the dice. At least you know with McCarthy, you got a guy that won a Super Bowl. You got a guy that led you to 12 wins this year. And Nick, last week, someone in Dallas, a media member who I know who's close to the team, texted me that Jerry won't fire McCarthy until he can hire Sean Payton. So what I think could happen, guys, a lot of people are looking at this as Payton might take a mini retirement, like sit out, because I believe he's got 3 years left on his deal with New Orleans. But if he sits out 1 year, presumably that contract becomes void, and then next year you could hire Sean Payton. So keep McCarthy 1 more year, like I said. And then if you don't get where you want to go next year, then you hire Sean Payton and go from there, Nick.
Yeah. Well, no risk in throwing a year away. By the way, whenever Broussard alludes to sources, I play a game in my head where I see if I can figure it out. I'd put 500 on Clarence Hill. I think Clarence Hill's the person. You tell me later if I'm right, Broussard.
Yeah,
not Clarence Hill.
You
Damn.
can't.
All right. Okay, you told me I'm wrong.
But it wasn't Clarence anyway. Okay. It wasn't Clarence.
All right, so here's the deal. So the Cowboys, I try to learn as much as I can about the league as a whole from each individual postseason. And I think Wilds, we are seeing a very interesting trend in this postseason, which is playing in an awful division hurts you. So who are the 3 teams that have been the biggest playoff disappointments? They all lost at home. They all lost their first playoff game. Dallas, Green Bay, Tennessee. NFC East, AFC South, NFC North, 3 worst divisions in football. Meanwhile, the 4 remaining teams come from, without question, the 3 best divisions in football. The NFC West is the best division by a mile, 2 teams standing. The AFC West had 2 playoff teams, another, come down to the final little play of the regular season. Second best division, the Chiefs are standing, and then the Bengals out of the AFC North. We have to do with the Steelers, the Ravens, and the Browns. No awful team. And you'd say, what about the team that came the closest to being here, the Bills? AFC East was actually, aside from the Jets, competitive this year. So here's why I bring this up. That's further evidence that you need to make a change at Mike McCarthy, because this was the exact problem he had in Green Bay. Awful division, win it early, team's not ready come the postseason. That's exactly what happened to the Packers. You didn't have any real push. Meanwhile, Sean Payton has had to fight tooth and nail for that division for the last decade. It's been different teams. It's like, oh my God, Cam Newton's the MVP. I got to deal with him. Oh my God, Matt Ryan's the MVP. I got to deal with him. Oh my God, Tom Brady's here now. I got to deal with him. So when those Saints teams, while they never made a Super Bowl after the first one, they weren't regularly going one and done. They dealt with the Minneapolis Miracle. They dealt with the terrible call against the Rams, dealt with some bad luck. But those teams were sharp. And while I might disagree with some of Sean Payton's methods, most notably trying to run up the score and maybe ending Michael Thomas's career, which is a story we just have decided not to talk about as a media, hadn't played in 2 years basically, he's an obviously great head coach. If you can replace Mike McCarthy with Sean Payton, you do anything and everything you can do it, including openly wooing him. What's McCarthy going to do? Right. Quit and protest? Fine. Good for us. You make it. I think Jerry, on his next interview, should say we would love to have him. Sean knows it. Pay the tampering fine if there is one. Do everything you can to get Sean Payton, because running it back is not going to change your results at all, Wilds.
Okay, so I'll stay with you, Nick. Don't you think it's weird that we haven't heard any sort of murmurs from Cowboys players that Mike McCarthy's not the guy? Every other coach that's been fired, you hear a little bit of rumblings, but it seems to me that Dak Prescott really likes Mike McCarthy. If Dak Prescott wanted Mike McCarthy out, I feel like we would have heard about it. So wouldn't you take the players' I don't know, feelings seems too basic of a word, but like their advice that they're not clamoring for a change in head coach. In fact, Dak seems to really like Mike McCarthy, and if I was Jerry Jones, that would go a long way with me.
Yeah, except when you have an underachieving organization, sometimes everyone liking the boss is the problem. Sometimes you need a boss, people that rub people the wrong way. Sometimes you need a boss that instills some fear. Mike McCarthy ain't that. So the fact that the Cowboys might like him, to me, is not necessarily a positive sign. It's not necessarily a negative sign, but I'm going to call that neutral. I also think we tend to, Broussard, hear these postmortems when they're actually postmortems. I wasn't hearing, there's not a lot of, unless things get like as bad as it was for Urban in Jacksonville, it's very rare you hear before a coach has been fired, oh my God, it's a disaster here. Even the Giants were keeping on a happy face with Joe Judge. And I assume there'll be a 4,000-word ESPN The Magazine piece at some point about what a disaster that was at some point. But I don't think you're going to hear a lot of that while the guy's still there when they did just win the division.
Well, but you do hear quotes, we just didn't get it done at the end of the game. We got to manage the clock better. Little things like that point to the head coach. And I agree with Wiles, Nick, and I think you understand this too. Players do like Mike McCarthy. Now, we might look at his motivational tactics as corny, but they seem to resonate with the players. And most ex-players we have on this show also like Mike McCarthy. So that goes a long way. I think that is important. And why I wouldn't just fire him to fire him. I would only fire him if I'm getting Sean Payton. But here's the thing, Wiles, I'll say to you, because you hit me with this last week. When Golden State moved on from Mark Jackson to Steve Kerr, none other than Steph Curry was so totally in Mark Jackson's corner. Loved Mark Jackson. Now, there were other players and obviously people in the organization that didn't want Mark there, but your number one guy, Steph Curry, loved him. And so they moved on.
And
Steph
Giannis
was a
and J.
professional,
Kidd.
And the rest is history. Right, that's great.
What about
exactly.
Giannis and J. Kidd?
So
same thing.
A guy
you
that's
needed
a professional. Yep, Dak will be professional. So will the rest of those guys. They respect Sean Payton, so they'll move on gladly if they have to, if he's brought in.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.